Hi, nice to see you. Um, my name is Dr. Iseko. I'll be talking today very briefly on how to be a bad shepherd or how to be a bad manager. I'm sure the topic shocked you, right? And the whole idea is to use the negative to emphasize the positive. I'm sure you really appreciate this because you will see a lot of things that you can learn. Of course, we know that these scriptures are taken from Matthew 18 and, and Luke 15. But one of the first things that strikes us in the scripture about a good manager is that a good manager knows his count. A good manager knows his count. A good manager knows how many sheep. Scripture tells us about a good manager counting the sheep morning and evening. And then when one goes missing, he goes all out fighting, reaching out, struggling with bears and lions to make sure. The only way he knows that one is missing is, or that there's one missing out of the 100, is that he counts, and he counts regularly. And so a bad manager is one that does not know his count. He does not know his numbers. In the financial world and in business world, they say, do you know your numbers? In the medical world, we say, do you know your numbers? In the medical world, we're talking about your blood pressure, your blood sugar. A bad manager or a bad shepherd does not know his health numbers. He doesn't know his weight, he doesn't know his blood pressure, he doesn't know his blood sugar, he doesn't know his cholesterol. Yes, that's the starting point. But also, a bad manager does not know the key performance indices that concern his clients, that concern his processes. So, the different parts of a business, the way things are done, the benchmarks through which you can know whether you are fulfilling or you are reaching or doing what you're supposed to do in the correct way and consistently. This is what allows a process to or a system to grow, a company, a business to grow if they are laid down processes and systems to accomplish certain things. Now, to check the integrity and the efficiency of those systems, not just checking the outcomes, one must know the numbers that check on that. He may not know or is likely to know his staff KPIs. What are the numbers that amount for his staff in terms of welfare, in terms of other things, numbers? He may not know his activity KPIs. That is, there are certain things that you must do if if we are trying to get 200 clients in the door. We know that we must reach out to at least maybe 2,000 clients. So how many clients must we reach per day? That number is different from the process number. That number is different from the client that actually came through the door. If the activity is low, then the outcome will also be low. And if the activity is not done with the correct processes, then even though the outcome is good, it may not be sustained. Um, he also does not know his financial numbers, return on investment, inventory days, his number of stock, whether his stock is missing. He does not know that. And this is quite amazing that people can run families, companies, businesses without taking time to know. The Bible talks about first who that wants to build a house, who does not first sit down to count his costs or to measure his costs. And this is the measurement. Throughout scripture, we talk about measurement. We have the book of Numbers. Bible is the one that first starts the numbers game. It tells us that we will not be small. He tells us that we should count our numbers. He tells Abraham to go and try and count the stars. He tells him to try and count the sand by the seashore. You know, numbers are throughout the Bible. The Bible tells us how many people Jesus fed. The Bible tries to look at several things. So if you don't, the Bible talks about the shepherd knowing the number of sheep and how one gets missing, how a woman with her coins, how one gets missing. The Bible talks about numbers through and through. And so knowing your numbers is critical. It's one of the first signs of a good manager. And a bad manager is one that you cannot wake them up at the middle of the night. They don't even know their goal KPIs. What are they supposed to reach? What is their target? If God were to come today and say he's going to answer all the prayers, what are you going to tell him? And so sometimes these are the key things that a bad manager does not know. Number two, a bad manager feels that only some people count. He does not take cognizance of the one. The Bible talks about a good manager chasing after the one, not being content. Most of us will say 99 over 100 is pass mark anywhere in the world. That's a common saying. But that is a poor man saying or a bad manager saying that says Forget the one, I still have 99. Because without one, you cannot collect 1 million. You will have 999,999. And from one, it becomes two, it becomes four, it becomes five. And before you know it, you'll have a crisis on your hand. So from the one, a good manager knows that that one is quite important. So a bad manager does not understand that everyone counts. So they do not worry themselves about maybe clients or guests that are dissatisfied. They do not worry themselves about one service where they say, well, it's just one, we'll manage with the others. They do not worry themselves when one tire goes down because they feel, okay, we have a spare tire, they put on their spare tire and they do not get worried. They do not worry themselves when their staff have grievances. We have 20,000 staff. That person is unhappy. Well, 19,999 is pass mark to over 20,000 anywhere in the world. They do not worry about incidents that happen in their organization and their department. They do not worry about all leads. You know, people get to the page, people get to your different lead gathering of places, they ask questions, you do not chase them down, do not follow them up, do not follow up the opportunities. Bible talks about Jesus talking to the fishermen, and it says, if all of you, all the men, shall cast out all their nets into the sea, they shall have a great catch. And so very important is that all nets must be out. And when one fish is falling out, will you still make sure that you put some effort to getting it or stopping it from going? That is the principle of a good manager. And a bad manager cares about the 99, does not care about the one. And that one counts. Everyone counts. Every staff matters. Every customer, every guest, every client, every process, every single thing counts. It's about being serious about what is important, about being detailed, about being excellent. So a bad manager is not excellent. He does not care about all of it. Number three about a bad manager. I'm sure you're enjoying it already. A bad manager checks only once in a while. Bible still talks about the same shepherd and how he checks often and how he checks and knows that one is missing. But a bad manager will not even know when one is missing. Why? Because he doesn't check all the time. For the way the Bible describes it, I understand that this is somebody that is likely checking 2, 3, 4 times a day at every given point in time. If you were in this time, he probably has a dashboard in front of him, his system with all the numbers going up and down. That is a good manager. But a bad manager does not care about that. That doesn't bother him. He checks only once in a while. And they see this checklist, which are the basis. There's a book by Atul Gawande which emphasizes the importance of checklists and how checklists improves performance all over amongst pilots, amongst surgeons. All the best performing companies use checklists to be able to succeed, to make sure that things are not left behind, to make sure that limits of human memory are not, put, do not have the better of us. So they see checklists as an extra work. They believe that they are too bright or they are too sharp to do it, but that is a sign of a bad manager. And rather than seeing checklists as the barest minimum to be done, can you imagine going for a surgery and the surgeon does not use his checklist? Can you imagine what if a super surgeon forgets something inside? What if a pilot does not go through his checklist to check that everything and finds out that something is wrong while it's in the air? So that's what a bad manager does. I always say a running manager is a bad manager. Any person you see running around, something has gone wrong, they're running around, they're a bad manager. Because they did not prepare beforehand. They did not make sure that everything was in order. Check before the surgery. Check before the driver went out. Check that the rooms were filled up. Check before the contract went out. Use a checklist. So checklists are the minimum to be done. But checklists also do not have an applause. Nobody gives an applause for using a checklist. They only give an applause when things go fine. So because there's no applause for it, a bad manager does not do it. Now, there's a saying that is attributed to, I think, either Roosevelt or Michael Bloomberg, that says how great a nation or a company will be if nobody cares who got the credit. This is what happens to bad managers. They are overly worried about who gets the credit. And because of that, they did not do the little things that are unseen that make the big picture to be beautiful. They do not do it regularly. And I believe that the barest minimum a checklist should be done is twice daily. One at the beginning of the day and one when you are leaving it overnight or midday, depending on how the department or the company works. Still on checklist, they do not use a pen and a paper. They depend on human memory, but human memory has limits. The Bible says that the heart of man is deceitful and wicked above all. Who can imagine? This deceit can be self-deceit, can be the ability to think that you know more than you know, or make you forget what it is, or even be drawn away by things that may be shining. The Bible calls them the lust of life, the pride of life. Something may be shining and attract you, and you may forget very critical things. So a pen and a paper, or in my case, a device. Okay, so to make sure that the limits of human memory are not overcome by using checklists, but using a pen and a paper. A pen and a paper is mightier than any mind, I can tell you. And it not only is it important, it reinforces the memory in your mind. Okay, a bad manager spends more than 30, 40 minutes to complete the checklist. They spend so much time. They either do not do the checklist or they make checklist all that they do. So they spend hours on hours. And why did they spend these hours? While doing a checklist, they try to solve all the problems at the same time. Rather than noting it, assigning it, and coming back to assign them. Because chances are, if you try and solve every problem on the checklist as it is while you are doing the checklist, chances are you might meet the same problem twice in multiple places and you will expend energy unnecessarily. And so these are some of the things that we need to know. Bad managers abdicate their checklist either wholly or partially. They give somebody else to do it. And what is worse about abdication as opposed to delegation is that things like checklists are the exclusive prerogative of the manager, of the shepherd, to check the barn door is shut and the sheep are not coming in, that the sheep are protected. These are the exclusive. Even if somebody were to do it on your behalf, the checking must be your prerogative. Every time a manager delegates and does not take responsibility for what he has delegated, or does not cross-check what he has delegated, he has actually abdicated his role and his position, and is an extremely bad manager. In fact, he's worthy to be removed for that person that he has given that role to. All right, so keep on learning. When they do follow their checklists, a bad manager does not make sure that his checklist contains the very bare essentials, the most important things. And what are these important things? One is that they fail to check their subordinate leaders' checklist. One of the key things in large departments or large companies is the fact that there's almost always going to be a leadership pipeline, meaning every leader has sub-leaders, managers, team leaders, team guides, assistant managers, and making sure that they are not redundant and that they are also developing their muscle for leadership is a key component of leadership. The key component of being a good shepherd, so that they can step in at any time. So those managers and leaders typically also may have sub checklists, their own things to do, and it's important and critical that a good manager, good shepherd, checks that those people have done it and that they've done it properly. When checking it, there are two ways a good manager does it, which a bad manager fails to do. The first way is a direct checking, which is like we do in our accounting and audit, to go directly to the source document and test the source document, which is check one or two things on the checklist directly yourself to make sure that there are no errors or that it was actually done. And then indirectly, which is now to now check the checklist. Okay, I can see the checklist. Lazy managers and bad managers may only check the checklist. Okay, I can see it has been done. They do not go to the front line to go and check. Just not everything, but certain things that are key and need to be done at random. Now, also, it's very important to note their checklists do not contain check for potential embarrassment. If there is anything that a checklist must contain and that a manager must check, it's what is potentially embarrassing. They say you are a pilot and you did not, or you are a driver and you are driving Oga across from Abuja to Lagos or across 200 kilometers and you did not check your spare tire and the tire burst on the middle of the road and you are there with a busload of people who have paid you for this service and you are embarrassed because you did not check your spare time. That is embarrassment. So one of the key things as a manager is to check what can embarrass me, and they will say, who is that manager? Who is that person? There's a saying that we normally used to laugh. I would say, you had one job. Who? They say that you had one job. You were the facility manager, you had one job. Keep this facility running. And now the whole bank is shut down. The whole hospital is shut down. There is no diesel. For example, unanswered DMs, unanswered calls. For example, no diesel in an establishment. And now everybody is running around to go and buy diesel because diesel finished. Why? Somebody did not check it. And now people have come. They are in front and the generator is off. There is no light, there is no diesel. Or there is no emergency readiness in a hospital setting. Somebody is dying. The things supposed to be for emergency are not there. That is impossible. No oxygen. A missing sample in a lab. Or services were taken where, imagine you are a supermarket store manager and things are being sold, but people are not paying for those things. You had one job, convert the goods to revenue. And they just check for the things that are potential embarrassment. This is quite one of the things that a bad manager's checklist does not follow. Number three in their checklist does not contain process failures. We're still talking about what are the things that a bad manager does. And one of them is that they don't use their checklist. And when they do use their checklist will be deficient. And sometimes their checklist do not check for process failures. They fail to check feedback, either directly from the customer, from the client, from the guests. They fail to check incidents recorded by staff, where issues may have gone wrong, where things may have gone wrong, so that they can fix it once and for all. They fail to walk around, MBWA, management are walking around, looking at how everything is running, how staff are working, making sure they are working across the way to do. And we have the 7S scores, which is a group of things you can see it on the slide: SOPs, sales, smiling, that the staff are following those things. They fail to check the key documents and documentation. So you might find out that they are in the middle of a contract and somebody did not sign a contract. And they have put all their mind that they're going to get this 100 million contract. They fail to check things that could amount to process failures. They fail to check opportunities, either latent or overt opportunities for the organization to grow. They do not check these things, and failures now happen, even opportunities for improvement. And these are some things that a bad manager's checklist does not contain. They also fail to get opportunities for revenue or growth. And I see this often. Often the CEO or the head of the business has to come down and say, look, I can see this. But good managers should have spotted that. A good manager should have spotted opportunities for the company to grow. And like I say, practice makes perfect. It is not when you are in another setting or in your own that you'll be able to spot it suddenly. If you are not trying and spotting and giving, and then you are getting constructive feedback, this must be checked up every day. And I've talked about how they could be overt, how it could be concealed, and how it could be one that you need to pray for to receive light. Bad managers do not pray. Number four, this one is very critical. A bad manager is not accountable. And there's a saying that if you're accountable to nobody, you will soon be a liability to everybody. And it is pitiful. A lot of people's reason for going into business or going into being leaders or being managers is so that they can have autonomy, so that they can be free to do what they want, when they want, how they want. When I become manager, I will do this and that. No. The higher you go in an organization or the higher responsibility you have, it means the more accountability you must put yourself under. You must make yourself accountable to somebody. Somebody must be able to check you. You must have a report that you submit somewhere for somebody to review, check, have inputs. So bad managers fail to hold themselves accountable. And the first thing, accountability must be to yourself. You should be able to tell yourself that I gave my best. I gave my all in this. So giving reports to their managers, filling their checklists, recording failures, giving account of money that has been kept in their hand or money spent, or even authorization for money to be spent. Bad managers do not even record when things are not going well, underperformance. They do not record tasks that are given to them or tasks that they give out. And so they are automatically unable to meet deadlines. So we're expecting something, the bad manager always drops the ball. They don't use calendars. They don't document tasks. They do not follow it. They do not keep bad outcomes, and they do not hold themselves accountable for bad stuff. Bad staff often need to be trained or need to be fired in time. And bad managers do not hold themselves accountable. They say it's somebody else's fault. They say it's this person's fault. I've been telling that person instead of holding themselves accountable for all the outcomes of the business and of the department that they are under. A bad manager shouts often. They're shouting at their staff, or mumbling, or they're angry, or they're upset often. If you're the shouting type like I am, you'll probably be shouting often. If you're the mumbling type or angry like some people are, they will stay angry. They will go home angry. They will wake up resentful. Why? But because they are not talking and they do not write. So a bad manager does not write processes, does not write policies, does not write queries, does not write commendations. They do not talk. So eventually they end up shouting or imploding or exploding. And what does it mean to talk? The Bible talks about a shepherd, a good shepherd, and it says, my sheep hear my voice in John 10:27-28. I know them and they follow me. So one thing that a bad manager talks, the people following hear, and that they are able to follow. They should know the voice of the manager. Your staff, employees, people under you, children, must be able to predict what you will say in a situation. They should be able to hear a word and say, this came from Oga, and this could not have come. There's no way you can say this. Because they know what your voice sounds and they know what you will say. So bad managers do not communicate regularly. They do not take every opportunity. They do not use WhatsApp. They do not use all the modern tools to communicate with their staff regularly, to take every opportunity to communicate. There is only one major tool of leadership, and that is communication. Nothing else. Your ability to lead staff or to lead any group of people is bound in your ability to talk, your ability to say something, your ability to impact them through what you say. If you are not talking, you are a bad manager. But especially when you are talking, try and make sure that most of your talk, especially reprimands or direction, is based on written down, something that is written down. Don't be talking every day. Do it like this. Tomorrow, do it like that. Why don't you do it like this now? I expected you to have area of expectations, write it down in form of a process so that people can read it and work with it. The Bible says in Habakkuk that write the vision and make it plain that he may run that reads it. That is, as the person is working, they can read it, they can apply it. Not that you will say, I expected you to greet, I expected you to kneel down when you see me when I come. I expected you to collect my bag. If that's what you expect, write it down. Make it clear and everybody communicate regularly. At meetings, at huddle meetings, one-on-one. And it's important to know that one-on-one meetings and communication is one of the most effective. General meetings are important for policy laying and for doing major things, but one-on-one is what makes the difference. And a lot of people shy away from it because it could be confrontational, it could be challenging, you could hear things you don't want to hear, So one-on-one is quite important. Going around talking to people when it's their best days, a quiet manager is a bad manager. In fact, it's an oxymoron. A quiet manager is an oxymoron. So we continue and we say a bad manager does not talk. What do they fail to communicate? They fail to communicate why we do what we do, where we are going. These are our vision, these are our objectives. If you look at churches that grow bigger, churches that typically have projects, are typically that can galvanize people and members in one direction. Companies that are growing are people that you can touch even the cleaner and they say this is what we're trying to achieve. This is where we are, and this is where we are trying to go. And this is what everybody knows that this is our goal. When they see failure, they know it. When they see success, they know it. They're not just coming and doing routine tasks. The manager fails to give information. So people just find out that they have been redeployed. They don't know. He fails to apologize when he's wrong. He fails to bring out the processes, the rules. He fails to give information on what is going right and what is going wrong. Testimonials, case studies, examples, stories. The best cultures are built with stories, built with songs also. Testimonials, things are happening good. Somebody followed the process. You use those stories even when things go bad. it typically is a very strong tool to teach and to make new progress. Bad managers fail to communicate acknowledgement and open recognition. I'm wearing a white shirt. If there was an oil stain on the center of this shirt, do you know that it is natural for everybody to say, there's just an oil stain there? What's happening? It is unnatural for everybody to say that. So it is unnatural for somebody to say, oh, your shirt is so fantastic and white, 99% white, well done. It is more natural for us to point out the obvious flaw. So a good manager knows this and takes that discipline and tries to remember to acknowledge and openly recognize people when they do good, and not to always focus on the oil stain on the white shirt, which may be less than 1%, while 99% is good, even though that may be the natural approach. A quiet manager is a bad manager. So at every meeting, bad managers recognize and communicate prayers, professional learning so that people can grow. But number three, which is the most important, every meeting must end with positive motivation and alignment. People must be able to recognize why they are there. They must be able to align their personal goals and their personal aspirations with those of the department, those of the company, those of the business. That is the main reason for all meetings, all CPDs, and that is the main goal that the manager must aim to reach. To be able to get people to align and remind them of processes, policies, and use stories, use real incidents, use failures, use case studies. Then identify where we are. In our goal to where we are going, we have certain key performance in this. This is where we are, this is what we did well, and this is what we can do better. Okay, and then give announcements. Then, of course, promotion. It's very important for a manager to gather the department, to gather the company, to promote the business, because everybody is dependent on that business. But people often do not remember that it's part of their responsibility to promote that business, to talk about it outside. You know, in scripture it says, go to Jerusalem and to Judea and to all the world, all the ends of the earth, telling people about Jesus. Same thing here. Staff, company members, not just Jesus, not just the leader, not just the shepherd. A manager is going to galvanize everybody to go into all the areas to get what is necessary. So a bad manager doesn't talk well. And I said that the difference in talking is typically made on one-on-one interaction with each staff. Not just at meetings, huddles, CPDs where other people are. A lot of difference is made one-on-one when you talk to people directly. But one of the key things that makes a difference and that everybody must recognize is that bad managers use public meetings to address private issues, to address individuals. You want to tell someone that you don't like them wearing a red pocket square. But you go to a meeting and say, look, I don't like people wearing red pocket square. And that's only one person. You could easily have called that person. That's a private meeting. That's a private individual. Those managers that do that are often cowards and are unable to address their own personal insecurities. The person is working under you, is a staff in your department. Maybe older than you, maybe more difficult. Call them in, appreciate them. Start from good things. I like your jacket, I like whatever. I think that this is a little bit inappropriate for work and doesn't follow that. And here's the SOP, what the SOP says, and this is what we're trying to achieve. Link them back to the objective and explain to them individually. People will respect you for taking it privately. So private issues will be addressed privately. Meetings are like billboards. They give the general information, they raise awareness, they can raise hope, they can raise a lot of things. But the real difference is made on one, just like sales. Okay, so rather than using general communication for things that affect most of the staff, they use it to address one person or the other. And they now use private meetings. When they meet the person one-on-one, they now talk about general issues. Those are signs of a bad manager. Now let's go to number 6. A bad manager does not escalate frequently. You know, so a bad manager does not escalate frequently. And what does it mean to escalate? It means to take up things that are higher than you to a higher authority, to a higher person, to a higher group of people, so that they can be addressed. Even if you have sorted that issue, bad managers keep setting things to themselves and typically until it becomes too late. One of the things what they fail to escalate, they fail to escalate delayed responses to their requests. Usually requests that affect service, that may cause big service failures. A bad manager might say, well, I requested for fuel. I have been requesting for fuel for the past 2 weeks. Nobody answered me. Now they're going to embarrass the whole organization on the basis of the fact that they do not have fuel or that nobody answered them for one fuel or the other. No, no, no. That's inappropriate in its entirety. Key things can now things get thrown out of the box. They say they've been requesting for something to be fixed. That thing affects service and it did not escalate to a higher authority. They sit down until it embarrasses the entire organization. And that is what bad managers do. They also fail to escalate service failures. They fail to escalate ideas and innovations. They have an idea that will move the organization forward. They fail to escalate it. They fail to escalate a service failure, something went wrong, something that could still go wrong, and they fail to escalate it so that it can be solved permanently. They fail to escalate potential catastrophe. Somebody comes and threatens to shut down the business, to shut down the company, to shut down the department. Something happens that could be potentially catastrophic, and they say, "Oh, what's my own?" and they close. A bad manager. That is someone that's going nowhere to happen anytime, either on their own, in another company, anywhere. Those are seeds that are being sown and that will definitely be reaped. A bad manager also fails to escalate losses. They can see suppliers or staff shortchange the organization and they turn their eyes, or they say they don't want to report. That is those are characteristics of a bad man, a hireling. That the key things of that business, of that company, are being held and people are taking advantage and you don't report it. That is a major problem that happens on bad managers. And they fail to report or to escalate chronic issues or persistent issues, things that have been there over and over. They say, well, everybody knows about it. And to large part, a lot of people may not know about it, and that causes a lot of problems. Someone may even have been in the department and now becomes a manager. And these issues have been there. Instead of addressing them, escalating them, and seeking lasting solutions to them, so that everybody can see this person came, this thing we've always suffered has ended. But no, they do not only not solve the problem, they sit on the problem. So the senior management does not even see that problem. They're like Pharisees. They don't enter the temple and they don't want to allow other people to enter the temple. They also fail to escalate when they are critical VIP or VVIP guests or when things are not working well. For example, in a hospital, a bad manager might fail to escalate a patient that is not getting well to other consultants, medical directors, group medical directors, may fail to escalate when a VIP data requires some level of extra political or other treatment or extra efforts to be taken for privacy. And those things could cause. Again, a quiet manager is a bad manager. In fact, a quiet manager does not exist. A bad manager does not show concern about his staff. And that is important to make the difference. It is often not that this person does not care about the staff, but they fail to show that care or that concern. And people cannot read your mind. They cannot read that you care about them. And this is something that happens even to people like us who have our own way of doing things. A lot of managers are very brilliant and bright. And are used to doing things on their own. So sometimes they expect people to be able to figure things out. But that is not always the case. People need to hear it. And so they neglect grievances or concerns raised by staff. They may neglect to show recognition for good work being done. They may forget or not even deliberately make a system to recognize people's birthdays, marriages, ill health. You need to call them out. You need to help them. You need to do certain things. They may fail to identify group breakers, bitter people. These are people that could undermine all your work in one sentence. You make one statement and everybody goes with them. And it becomes a major issue in the organization. Just one wrong statement. People that tell their head, don't mind what Oga says, don't mind what the manager is saying. You must identify those people and address them individually, address whatever issues may be, or get them out as quick as possible. Because a bad route can undermine all your work. Even worse than a bad worker. They also neglect to show ideas, to engage staff. When a staff brings an idea, it's very important to show concern for that idea, to show that you have considered it. Even if you may not go with it, it's important to recognize it and to engage it so that the staff can engage. And they also neglect areas of deficiencies, either in their own training and their knowledge or in that of their staff. And those deficiencies and those neglects could cause big problems big time. Staff may often have problems with motivation, with remuneration, and a bad manager does not show concern. Even if it cannot be solved, it is important that you show concern. It's important that an effort is made to improve some of these things, especially when they begin to affect staff or they become readily apparent to everybody. Now, everybody has personal issues, but sometimes these personal issues can go a long way to causing big issues, and they could affect work significantly. When this happens, it's important to address those personal issues. There are personal issues that you should mind your business, and there are times when you should ask prayerfully, nicely, respectfully. I noticed that this is happening. Is it something you want to talk about? You need my assistance in this area. And those things could be quite phenomenal in helping the staff. A bad manager eats only what the sheep eats. Can you imagine that? And it's important that you know that as a shepherd, as a manager, you must go above and beyond. You must have a very wide diet. For you to grow and to show and demonstrate that you are indeed the manager in that department, you must know what your people don't know. You must learn, you must excel, you must push yourself to be more. And bad managers particularly fail to excel above their staff. In tasks, their staff may know more than them, may learn more than them, maybe reading more than them. In fact, sometimes it will be obvious because senior managers or people might have to reach across you as the manager to your staff to do certain things for them without even recompense to you, because they feel your staff know more than you. Your staff will do better than you, and that is critical. By the time you start noticing that certain things you don't know, you need to calm down and go and learn and read. Every time you are given the responsibility of management, of leadership, of shepherding people or groups or any project, you need to invest time in yourself. You need to learn, you need to read, you need to know more. You need to have better relationships. You need to write more SOPs, processes, guidelines, policies. One of the key ways to show leadership is in knowing. Even if you are a leader over experts in a subject matter, you must know more people. You must know more things about certain areas. You must know how to put things together. Those things is what will now set you apart in making sure that you are the leader. Then you must learn to pray more. A leader must pray more, push themselves to be more. You cannot just show up. As a shepherd, you cannot just show up. You must make that investment to be more. Bad managers don't use processes or calendars. They take it by the fly. They do things anyhow. They do not have a system. Now, processes are important. Processes are simply, and I'll talk about processes in one of my videos. Just watch. Processes is a written down way of accomplishing a task, and a certain type of process is a calendar. We say that this is a way, yes, but this is a particular day and time that this kind of thing is needed. So when a bad manager works, they do not use processes to guide their work, to guide how they supervise staff. Anytime you're supervising staff and you're not making reference to whether they are doing it according to what is written, you are likely going to be harming them. You are likely going to be taking advantage of them. You're likely going to be frustrating them because they do not have the template that is in your head. So when you have written down the processes, people can now follow it. When you see something wrong, don't write a query to anybody that you cannot make a reference. According to this process, which I have taught you at this time, you ought to have done 1, 2, 3 like this. And I prefer that you do this in this way. So therefore, XYZ. Can you explain? If you find yourself writing a query or something, I said, no, you should know, it's common knowledge. Caution yourself. Have that discipline to follow the process, both by yourself and to use processes to guide you. to use calendars to guide where you ought to be at a different time. They did not use processes to guide them when they are supervising staff, when they are reprimanding, sending queries, punishing. How do you send a punishment to somebody and you don't give them a reference to a law? The Bible says that where there is no law, there is no sin. Meaning, for you as a manager, you must set the law. You cannot say anybody has done wrong or has done good when there was no benchmark set. Imagine having an exam with no marking scheme and then now deciding on the fly. People cannot predict you, they cannot know what you expect or what you want to see. And that is definitely not good. Bad managers are unable to monitor. They do that without any reference to anything. They do not follow process when they are making reports or when they are reviewing incidents. When something goes wrong in a business, in a department, after the incident has been written and analyzed, the answer to every incident is the process. Why did this go wrong? A process was involved. Either a process was not done at all, was poorly done, needs to be improved upon, or needs to be taught better. Either way, the answer to every incident is a process. And also, they fail to let their calendars guide them. Either they do not have any written plan that guides their days, weeks, and months on what they'll be doing when, or they have it and they do not follow it for whatever reason. Those are bad managers. I've said quite a number of things, and I'm sure that you've been blessed and enriched. So, are you a bad manager in some areas or all of these areas? Or is it that you are just failing to put in all the necessary effort to excel? Either way, I'm sure there's one or two areas that you can improve upon. Remember, practice makes perfect, even if it's bad practice. If you are doing management in a bad way, practicing in a wrong way over and over and over again, you will have perfected bad management, and it will be very difficult to change. So you need to start taking some of the things, even though I see them reverse, and start applying them. Make deliberate efforts. Some of these things don't come naturally. They require deliberate efforts. Some of them require deliberate systems, processes, things that put you in check and make sure that you follow what is necessary to be followed. Thank you very much for listening, and I'm sure you've had a great time. So see you on the next one. Bye.